Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Monday, April 30th. Last stream ended abruptly in an internet outage, which wasn't certainly the greatest thing. And now, according to the Asian account at least, we are done with April. So I made it to the amazingly low rank of rank 20 on standard. For my Asian account, I don't even know what we're really gonna do to try and fix that. Frankly, I think we're just gonna kind of not care about it, particularly on the Asian and the European accounts. It got me a card back, so I got 5 ranked victories throughout the month and 30 gold, which is pathetic. I mean, that's just an insult, really. 30 gold is really low, and of course it puts us right back down to rank 25, which I believe is the lowest, but maybe there's lower to go. And I've spent most of the weekend finally catching up on uploading almost all videos, so that'll not be as big of an issue, and doing the monster hunt setup. So we do have this 4 packs to start with, but before we do this, Mage, Shaman, Paladin, and Priest. If I play Shaman, and then I could probably play 12 Beasts. So if I refresh this, okay, that overlaps now with a Mage and then Hunter. Hunter overlaps these two. Mage overlaps these two, so just 1 victory on Mage is really good. I still have yet on my America's account to defeat the Beast Hunt with the final character, Time Tinkerer. I got to the boss once, maybe twice. I think only once, and failed. The bosses at the end of these monster hunts are not random, like in the dungeons, dungeon runs of Kobolds and Catacombs. So you kind of know what you're building towards, which makes it a little bit easier to know what you're supposed to do. But I would say the monster hunts are a little bit more difficult, and from what I've seen, the Hagatha fight, final boss battle, is kind of more of a just reward, easy fight. Look at that, an epic and a legendary. Good luck. Ooh, and a golden. So nice. That's a really nice card to have. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I'm really in any place to make a wild deck or a standard deck on my Asian account that would do anything helpful. But I've got some Witchwood cards now. Let's see. So disenchant the 4 extra things, and then we'll type in new and just mark off all the new cards that we got from doing the monster hunt. So the whole defeat 10 monsters with each of the hero classes, so you get a card pack. It's kind of annoying how they did it, frankly. I mean, you could have given me 1 daily quest to do it with Tracker, and then a week later done another daily quest to do it with Houndmaster, and then a week later another daily quest to do it with the Cannoneer. Well, actually it would be the Cannoneer, then Houndmaster, then Time Tinkerer. Then you would have a reason, like Happy New Year. Oh, that's not how that works. So we'll make this our new favorite and move on. Now we've got to just play a ranked mage game, I suppose, is and ideally what we want to do. So we have Elemental Mage, we have Tempo Mage. Start here and begin. I went through most of the news and looked at games. The funny thing is, going through every single Steam game is hard to maintain any kind of importance to it, because 99% of all games they come out on Steam are garbage, not worth mentioning at all. Maybe I kept a few of those. Actual news versus just announcements of new products are pretty rare. So just going through the list is pretty easy to do, and it doesn't feel like I'm doing much. I've had this problem ever since I've started to cover games on Steam. Is they are news, but they are the news that is boring too. And so I don't really care, frankly, about most games that come out. I don't think the audience really cares. But in the end, I suppose that's what news has to be. Otherwise, it becomes sensationalized news, and it's then more just making fake news. In the video game fake news sense, whatever that would be, versus talking about what really is happening. There is a further issue where the story is starting to get passed around. The narrative is starting to be made that people are losing interest in Hearthstone. Now, of course, I have been saying that personally for probably a year or two. You're pretty much gonna be stuck with Hearthstone though until we can find some other game that I could play that required a very low actions per minute. Like, let's just face it, that's the metric to use. I need something where I could talk about some form of news and have something to talk about. The footage that was filled up for the Monster Hunts, I'm gonna have to do a recovery from a 720p format and see how that works. And because of that, that's me. Because I've been waiting and uploading, I haven't done any work on that I should have. Otherwise, like, the right response for my channel would have been to cut up that video and have it out as soon as possible. But because the hard drive screwed up the footage, it's that's the delay there. Okay. There's a game on itch.io called You Left Me. This is from PC Gamer. It's a surreal adventure game called You Left Me. You can pay whatever you want. The subtitle is, it contains explicit handling of suicide. Creator Angela He warns. Angela He. Okay. It's an interesting name. Angela He. I'm assuming this is some kind of... She's some kind of Asian with a last name like He. I was gonna grab this game if it was on Steam and pay what you want, but I guess that's just something that doesn't exist on Steam. I guess that's probably for the better. Yeah, this looks like a standard Korean horror type game. Visual novel horror thing. They must be scraping the bottom of the barrel a little bit. Guess I'm supposed to be playing beasts too while I'm doing this. Why do I have beasts in my deck for a tempo mage? Alright. Moving on to the next article. TechRaptor says, Happy birthday adds new content for Nintendo Switch release. NIS America has announced its life-creating sandbox game Happy Birthdays will come with brand new content to the Switch. I had forgotten this game was announced or coming out. When did Happy Birthdays originally come out? Like I'm really trying to fit, like, it's coming out June 5th, 2018. The game is an improved version of the PS4 and PC version, which is called Birthdays the Beginning. Ah, that explains it. It seems like it's not much of a game. If there's one thing I guess I kind of like about TechRaptor over PC Gamer is that they don't fill their website with links to games that are constantly like re-referencing other articles talking about the same game, so you get in these click holes. Their articles are nice and simple text, which might work better. I mean, who knows how search engine optimization works, though? I mean, PC Gamer might be doing it the right way by having all kinds of links to other links. They probably are. Okay, so I'm looking at Birthdays at the Beginning on Steam. It's weirdly named because it also has the Japanese characters of the name. It says it's mixed with 51% of 403 users rating it positive. It looks very much like it is kind of this life sim game in a sort of very limited Minecraft box. It doesn't seem like it goes on forever. So not really a game that I think would interest me. And when it comes to Switch, like, I suppose you might sucker a few kids into buying something that looks like Minecraft but isn't actually Minecraft. While there is no Minecraft on the Switch. Moving on, Gemetsu has an article. Psyvarier, PSYVARIAR Delta, is coming to the West this summer. It's a shoot 'em up. It's an updated Success Corporation shoot 'em up. Let me see what it looks like on the trailer. Looks like it's coming to the PS4 and the Switch. So there's a lot of small time things happening, like small time games that are getting released on the Switch, and I feel like you're gonna run into Atari problems. Perhaps the new guy in charge of Nintendo will roll back some of that ideas and not be quite as inviting to low quality products onto their device, although it's kind of been working for them right now. Yeah, like there's really nothing wrong with this game, but there's kind of nothing special about the game either. It's just to shoot 'em up. And that's kind of all there is to say about it. Moving on. Eurogamer, this is an interesting article in my opinion. Eurogamer, who I'm fairly certain was paid by Ubisoft to promote For Honor. It seemed like a lot of game companies, video game journalists, were getting paid to promote For Honor because it was getting a lot of coverage for less reason than made sense. Particularly for as bad as the game looked at launch, as bad as the game looked before launch, and as bad as the game seems after launch. But Eurogamer has come back and done yet another review as of today. Maybe yesterday? No, it says today. Of For Honor. It's For Honor re-review. A troubled war god finally gets its stride. And they're still promoting this game. And I'm like, oh man, either this person is completely in love with this game that everybody else hates, or they're still getting paid under the table, which I assume that's what's really going on here. Is well, let's see. I'm not even the one that's a problem this time. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Gung Ho Online Entertainment has 10 titles in development, and they will exhibit at E3 2018. New titles across smartphones, consoles, and new fields. Let's see. The Gung Ho company, however, let's do a little research here and see what games, if any, they've made that are recognizable and worth mention. Let's see, games. Well, they've got Puzzles and Dragons, which I believe is a pretty well-known rip-off of some of the other games, so maybe it was the original. They have Let It Die, which was kind of a failure, free-to-play type game that was interesting in its weirdness, but not really not blowing the world up with its amazing sales. The game Republic, which last I recall took way too long to develop and wasn't that great, but it wasn't terrible either, and I still do want to play it. Ragnarok, Odyssey Ace, probably not related to Ragnarok Online. I'm skipping over some of this. A lot of Japanese looking games that don't even make any sense. Sentimental Graffiti. I know there was a game a long time ago called Sentimental Something, but I don't think it was Sentimental Graffiti. Interesting. For some reason the webpage wasn't letting me scroll down any further. Yeah, not a lot on Gung Ho that seems like it would be too interesting. Puzzles and Dragons 2 might be in development. I guess that's the best you could take from that. How can this guy be playing so slow and winning? Gamasutra has an article. With the PlayStation 4 at 73 million sold, Sony braces for a sales slowdown. Suppose that is the smart thing to do if you think the market really is saturated for the PlayStation 4. it would certainly also explain rumors of development of a PlayStation 5 if you feel you've saturated the market and you've got as many sales from as many people as possible. Then the next thing to do would be to sell the next product or some sort of accessory. Well, Tempo Mage didn't work. Let's try Elemental Mage. Whereas I would slightly warn Nintendo with having too much junk on their on their console, making the Switch feel like it is a console for kids with bad games on it, and then the kids that play those bad games will eventually tire of the Switch in general and not play the good games, the Nintendo first party games on the Switch. I kind of have the opposite complaint with the PlayStation. I feel like the PlayStation does have a few exclusives which are good, but then it fails to get just cross-platform games. Particularly if you come from it from the perspective of a Westerner. Usually I look at video games more from the perspective of trying to understand the Eastern market of video games, but if you're looking at the games that come on the West and start from the West, a lot of them don't feel like they come out for the PlayStation. They feel like they are timed exclusives with the Xbox, or they just don't come out for the PlayStation at all. That may be more feeling than truth. That is certainly a possibility, but it's certainly what it feels like to me. And so if I was going to buy a console tomorrow, I would still, just as somebody who lives in the West, feel more I'd lean more to buying an Xbox One X, I guess. The best version of that. It's the better hardware, slightly, and it's the slightly better release schedule. If I was specifically trying to play Japanese games and Japanese RPGs, I'd probably get a PlayStation 4. And maybe that's part of the problem, is that Japanese games in general, in a very broad and general sense, tend to be these long-running RPG games that give you hundreds of hours of gameplay, where Western games are more and more being online only or very short single-player experiences. And in the long run, selling more $60 games that are shorter experiences gets more money than selling Final Fantasy 15, where people could potentially play that forever, and then they just move over to Final Fantasy 16 whenever that comes out, or Final Fantasy 7 whenever that comes out. Let's see. It wouldn't be his live stream if we didn't complain about YouTube, but I don't have too much to say, so I'll just say YouTube is failing to do notifications, even to me, who I know I've clicked a bell. I think they're definitely having some major problems processing notifications and processing just everything. It's hard to make a doom and gloom statement like all of YouTube is cracking under the pressure of the massive amount of videos on it, but there kind of are systems within the YouTube system that are cracking under the pressure, and I don't know how you fix that short of just stopping people from being able to upload videos at all. And that's what they're sort of trying to do, but they're not doing a great job of it. Let's see. It occurs to me, if I was a different type of person, I might just applaud if YouTube said, look, we're just not going to let anybody but people in the United States and Europe and Japan upload videos. Like, if you just said all Central and South American countries cannot upload videos on YouTube at all African countries and Middle Eastern countries can't upload videos at all of Russia, all of China, and all of the other Asian countries. I suppose you want Australia. We throw Australia in the list too. If you just literally drew a line in the sand and say these countries can upload, these countries can't, it would drastically reduce the amount of videos being uploaded. It would probably drastically reduce the amount of inappropriate scam videos, because, I mean, it's a big generalization, but you kind of know where a lot of this garbage is coming from. If they just tightened the reins down to some countries where poverty levels are very high and the opportunity to make a few pennies on YouTube is actually a realistic way to make money, versus the first world countries where making YouTube your career is ridiculous. Anyways, that would be such a cruel thing to do, and I can't ethically agree with it, but I could certainly see that argument trying to be made, in the same way that so many YouTubers kind of just applauded small-time YouTube content creators from being kicked out of the partner program. Anyways, next article we have, Your Gamer has an article, Harry Potter Hogwarts Mystery forces you to pay or wait to save a kid from being strangled. This game, from what I've heard from a couple different sources, is the most like filthy pay to wait or pay free to play type game. And they're showing the picture, and it is like a Hogwarts child in a vine, tangled up in a vine. And I don't know if that's every time that you have to wait, or if that's just one. Which, I mean, it's so emotionally manipulative and gross. I mean, it's gross in the first place to have in a Harry Potter game a kid being strangled by vines in the first place. Like, I know that there probably was some more violence in the books than what was in the TV show, the movies. I'll grant that, but depicting it just seems wrong. And then intertwining this act of violence on a child being animated into, you either have to wait to have energy to free yourself, or you have to pay money, is so emotionally manipulative and wrong. Like, but frankly, there's a bigger issue certainly about why in the world are you making a kids free to play game in the first place? Like, in general, I guess people don't come out and say it directly, but in general, there are people, there is called the campaign for a advertisement free childhood or something like that. But in general, I think most parents would say they don't want their kids to see any ads in any apps, and they don't want the apps stealing data about the kids, which is illegal, at least in the United States and most of Europe. And they don't want their kids buying microtransactions. So there's pretty much no way to monetize a kids game. Which is to say, the market should decide if the market really worked the way people think it does, which it doesn't. But effectively, the market should decide to not make any kids games at all. And yet, constantly, and this is basically a Disney license, too. Is I would assume it's a Disney license. I guess maybe not. Maybe they licensed it directly from J.K. Rowling, and she just signed off on a really gross agreement. But like, there really shouldn't be any kids games out there unless you just love and want to entertain kids and put a game out there that is just for that reason. Or I guess there shouldn't be any free kids games out there. You could certainly just sell directly, and I think that's what parents would much prefer to do. Although, to be fair, most parents have spent, and kids don't see this, and kids will never know. It's just the way things go. Parents have spent so much money by the time they even bring the baby home from the hospital when it's born. They're in so much debt, and they spend so much on food and clothing, so much that frankly is the fault of the parents because they didn't think through having kids and they didn't budget or save up for it. It's almost 100% of all parents have not saved enough money or thought the process through for the next 18 to 24 years of support that child would need. By the time the kid is 4 or 5 and they've got a cell phone and they want to play a game, parents are like, I'm not spending any more on you. I'm totally broke. I can't buy you a game. Too bad. And their parents are often very abrupt about that and not, I mean, you really can't explain it to little kids anyways. So when a kid asks their parent, can I spend $2.99 to buy this game? A lot of parents will say no, and then that opens the door to the opportunity. Fine, I'll just go play this clone game that has free-to-play elements in it and has me watching a bunch of ads. Which inherently, the kids watching the ads makes the kids want to buy toys, which would have been more expensive than the imaginary $2.99 game. Or they get a free-to-play game and then they get access to their parents' accounts, and then they buy all kinds of microtransactions. And there's entire industries built around this, where the entire game is just designed to make money based on kids buying microtransactions. And like, it just shouldn't be that way. And credit card companies are going to have to really work to not have that happen. And there's been a lot of controversy about that already. Moving on, I don't even know if I really want to mention this game. There's a game called Ashi Wash, ASHI space WASH. Clean a giant obnoxious foot. It seems like this is probably some kind of weird, like, I don't know if this is an asset flip or if this is just a very abstractist idea. It does look like it's just a giant gross foot. It's from a developer who hasn't made anything else. It's $2.99. It works with VR, but it seems like it doesn't require VR. But I'm not 100% sure. Clean a giant foot in VR. Clean a giant foot again, but not in VR. Yeah, this does seem like it's an abstractist kind of asset flip idea, but somebody put some actual effort into it, and at the very least this would probably be a relatively cheap game to show off if you were a streamer. But I don't know, I'm never gonna have the idea that streamers need their own special recommendations for games. Streamers are gonna play whatever ridiculous looking garbage they can find, as long as it gets some views. Moving on, PC Gamer has the article, Nixxes software, that's Nixxes software, is working with NVIDIA on the Shadow of the Tomb Raider for PC. After a similar collaboration on Rise of the Tomb Raider. So Nixxes software is a Dutch video game company that specializes in porting games from consoles to PC. To be fair, on the face of it, I don't feel like Rise of the Tomb Raider is this was a terrible port. I feel like the problem mostly with Rise of the Tomb Raider, as somebody who relatively recently played it, is it brought us very far away from a single straightforward storyline experience into a much more wander around an open world experience, much more than the first game. And it introduced some pretty bad characters as the bad guys slash bad girls. It didn't do probably enough to characterize Lara Croft. Arguably, still not the greatest of tombs, or enough tombs. The Baba Yaga DLC kind of gets in the way in my memory, because that's the only part that I even remember that was slightly interesting. So if you didn't do the Baba Yaga DLC, you'd probably have a lot less of an experience. I didn't like the grinding. I didn't like the leveling up. I think that stuff is pointless. And I'm looking right now at the trailer for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it seems like what they're going to do is this is just going to have Lara Croft running around the forest killing the Trinity. Is that the name of the bad group? I think it is. She's gonna be hunting them down one by one in the forest. She's all covered in mud. So by the end of this trilogy, is Lara Croft just gonna? She starts off by being stabbed and bloodied and covered in mud, and she's gonna end up being stabbed and bloodied and covered in mud. I wouldn't be surprised if it very much was the case that the first game and the third game were made by the same team, and then the second game was made by a B team. Like here in the trailer, she's holding a bloody knife, and she tries to help a boy who was about to be sacrificed, and the boy's just running around. And like she's grabbing a side where she's been stabbed again, and now she's standing at the top of a like Mayan temple. Oh, so it was like a Mayan sacrifice of the ancient Mayans happening in modern time. Like Shadow of the Tomb Raider does not look like it's going to be great. If I'm just going to be honest. It feels like it's going to be a, for the most part, nightmare experience that just pushes Lara Croft further and further away from what I think Lara Croft is, and I'm not even a really good source to know or think what Lara Croft should be or who she is. As somebody who hasn't played the originals, I think also there's a lot of money being left on the table and just content being left on the table by not doing something with that first series. Crystal Dynamics trying to basically steal at this point Lara Croft to tell a completely different type of gameplay and a completely different type of story doesn't work for me. It just feels wrong. Let's see. Go ahead and kill this and squelch this guy. Like, my understanding of Lara Croft, to not get into too big of a rant, she's a platformer game, a run and gun in boss fight games. There's really no boss fights we've seen in the first of the new Tomb Raider series. Nothing worth really mentioning, and the boss fights we have seen have been these run sequences and shooting more like assault rifles versus her iconic dual handguns. The dual handguns seem to have been eliminated from possibility in the same way that the hot pants have been eliminated from being something that they'll have in their game. But also, for the most part, most platforming has been eliminated. There's a few puzzles in Tombs where you sort of platform, but it's terrible platforming because there's really no option other than the right option in any jump. Where something like Super Mario 64 and its platforming might be a great example of if you're in an area, you have 360 degrees of angles in which you can jump, and maybe you'll hit a wall, maybe you won't grab a ledge, maybe you'll jump right off the screen and die, but it seems like there's rooms for doing different things. In comparison, I'm thinking of the very first optional tomb in Rise of the Tomb Raider, because almost all the tombs are optional. You pretty much have to do the right thing or there's nothing else to do. To the point where that first optional tomb, I didn't actually know what I was supposed to be doing, but there was nothing else to try, so I tried something and it turned out to be the right thing. But there's far less even combination of platforming and zipping down lines while fighting that was kind of in the first game and in the second game. I suppose the main problem, though, and I haven't even talked about it, is all Tomb Raider has become now is a vehicle to sell other gameplay methods. The multiplayer, the grinding with loot boxes that were in Rise of the Tomb Raider. People probably forgotten about that. The hidden extra content stuff. By the time I had played the main game and not been satisfied by that, I ended my coverage of Rise of the Tomb Raider pretty abruptly. I'm like, I don't care about this multiplayer section. I don't care about this survival mini game where you have to just run around a snowy place and try and survive. I don't care about the Lore's Nightmare DLC where you're running around Lara Croft's manor fighting zombies. I don't care about the other DLC where you're doing almost exactly the same thing except for there aren't zombies. Like, all of those elements were additional when they didn't need to exist, and had the effort been put to make a better storyline and a better game in the main game, I would have much more approved that. I would have enjoyed it a lot more, I'm sure. So it's hard to say, like, Rise of the Tomb Raider is immediately a hard pass for me, but it certainly is probably a soft pass. Or for me, as somebody who's kind of obsessive and wants to own every game and wants to play every game, it's not at the top of the list. If I had it, sure, I would play it, but I imagine this trilogy will end this Tomb Raider series completely, and they'll try to do a soft reboot of some sort after it. Being called Shadow of the Tomb Raider, you could pretty much guess that there's a chance she'll die at the end of this third game, and then maybe she'll get resurrected by some kind of magical device, which they already hinted at in the second game. Then when she's resurrected, she'll probably be done by a different team and a completely different idea. Usually I wouldn't be a supporter of companies having strict controls over what their creators can do, but there really needed, I think, to be somebody passionate about the IP of Lara Croft and the Tomb Raider, somebody who is going to try and have some consistency and between the movies and the games, and make sure they're actually good products with a consistent feeling Lara Croft, which kind of doesn't feel like that. Anyways, moving on, Game of Sutra has an article. Nintendo still has plans for the 3DS through 2019 and beyond. I was recently thinking about this. Like, a new 3DS XL would probably be a good console to get if you can get it on the cheap. And the reason why is because any 3DS, I assume, can play both 3DS games and probably DS games. I'm so out of the loop, I'm not even sure about that, but I would assume a 3DS game can still play backwards compatible DS games. And there is, like, Ocarina of Time 3D is a DS game. There's I believe Luigi's Mansion on 3DS. There's Nintendo Mario 64 on 3DS. There's probably New Super Mario Land of some sort. There's a few older games that you would either have to pull out a Nintendo 64 or a GameCube or even a Wii at this point to play. So if instead of doing that you could just play a better port on a portable system, the 3DS might be the right move. That being said, if we see that Nintendo ports like Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, Resident Evil 4, a bunch of NES games, a bunch of Super NES games, if they just ported all of that to the Switch and you could get the Switch to play the new games, that would probably still be the best move. It is kind of hard to make the judgment to buy a new 3DS since the Switch is also portable. it's just, I guess, a matter of the virtual console. But of course, Nintendo here is saying that they have plans for the 3DS through 2019 and beyond, which is to say that they will, at the very least, continue to sell them and sell repair parts for them. That might be as much as they're really promising now. Am I finally going to get a victory here? Binding of Isaac Rebirth has a new DLC, I believe, or a new patch for Afterbirth Plus, or like I saw it said it had something. I guess it's Afterbirth Plus that you can get for, I believe, free. No. Let's see, do we have, how do you see notes? Comments. Curator reviews. Man, still lost. Man, just not getting anywhere. I guess that explains why we have not gotten a freaking we only got up to like rank 22 this month on the Asian account. Is it just like cannot win. You just can't win these rank games, and like you really need to win the rank games. Like I could play it on casual and save myself time today, but I'll just have to hurt myself later. What to do. Let's see. What can we get rid of? What do I want to get rid of? Elemental Mage or Tempo Mage? Let's get rid of Elemental Mage and make Classic Mage. I mean, seriously, that's where we're at. And then just replace that with this and be done with it. Was that a Classic Mage? Yes, that was a classic card. Like, I think we've got to go back to the classic recipes. I think I just don't have the cards on Asian or European accounts to deal with that, to go anywhere. To try to, in my effort to get up in ranked, I've failed to get up in ranked. I gave it a full month with HS Replay, or almost a full month, maybe 1 day short, and it's just did not happen. Part of that certainly is the expansion, so I guess I really didn't give it enough time, but the expansion with the new Witchwood cards has made everything crazy, but seems like it made things particularly crazy for me and not other people, because people aren't losing here, just me. And you wonder why I say things like I'm tired with Hearthstone. This is it. This is certainly at the incredibly low win ratios. ZeniMax has a job listing for UI artist. We won't spend too much time on it. It is in Richardson, Texas, so it will be for id Software. So you're going to be working probably on Doom, if I was to guess, unless they want you to work on something like Rage or something else that uses the now not very often used id tech. But we'll skip that. Let's see. We've got a game on Steam called Demon's Rise: War for the Deep. It's from the same person who brought you Demon's Rise: Lord of Chaos, which I believe I talked about a week ago. And this was the company that, yes, I said, why in the world would you play a game when they were planning on releasing here's a recommended review. It's pretty much the same as playing Demon's Rise: Lords of Chaos, but instead of playing the evil guys, you play the good guys, or a mixture if you choose. So instead of making one good game, they split it into two mediocre games at best. So yeah, no thanks to that. We've got a hidden object game from our friends Big Fish Games, Shadow Wolf Mysteries Coast of Wedding Collector's Edition. They put Collector's Edition, I believe, at the end of every game that they release, or maybe they re-release their games and add just a small amount of content or something to them. $12.99. I did go through my wish list and pretty much just get rid of all hidden object games. Like, on retrospect, I think that's not something I'm going to spend too much more time playing hidden object games. And if they're on sale, I guess I can find them on sale. If I can't find them on sale, then oh well. Let's see. There's a game called Vikings Brothers 2, which is funny because it is coming out the exact same day as Viking Brothers 4 and Vikings Brothers 3, each for roughly about $5. So there was a game called The Vikings, and so if this was some port of a game like that, that might make sense. But unfortunately, I don't think it is. I think instead what this is, let's see, what is it labeled as? Indie Casual Adventure. Seems like it's just a people going around to different places and maybe building buildings. You can get all three of the games except for Viking Brothers 1 for $10.75. There are no reviews for it. Yeah, it seems like this game is a kind of mouse click. You wouldn't call it a clicker. It's, you're going to click on something to start a process, and it's going to tell the Viking to start repairing a building. And then as soon as he's done, you might click on a mine and have them mine. It's like a real-time strategy management game without any combat. It doesn't look good, frankly, though. And scrolling through the other games that they've listed, it seems like they are all mediocre at best games and mostly feel like very simple efforts. Not a game that I would call an asset flip by any means. It looks like a real game. It just doesn't look like a good game. It looks like something that you might try and convince somebody to buy in the 90s when PCs would have not been able to handle fancy graphics or multiple screens or anything like that. But yeah, there's just nothing interesting in a modern perspective. Looking now at Viking Brothers 4, and it's the exact same game. So like, you can kind of tell if somebody's going to release 4 copies or 3 copies of the same game, it's usually a scam, unless of course it's a publisher re-releasing some really old games. But even if you were a publisher releasing old games, I would wait a week or two. I wouldn't cannibalize my own market. I'd say, here's this really old game, check it out. Next week we'll have the sequel. Next week we'll have the other sequel. Even for the biggest of the big publishers, there's still a lot of opportunity to spread out their releases more than having to do it on the exact same day. Well, it's been about an hour, and we have accomplished very little except for going through the news. 10 out of 12 beasts. Remember, these are 50 gold easier quests, and I still am struggling to get a mage victory. One freaking ranked mage victory that I need to at least get the card back, and I would prefer to get, so I could get a little bit higher than rank 25, but man, it just sucks. This whole rank system needs to be rethought, and I would have hoped that they would have said, we're gonna fix it better, so that like 1 victory should get you out of rank 25, 2 victories should get you out of rank 24, 3 victories should get you out of 20 to 23, and then you start to get it down. And frankly, I would prefer it if they stuck with the 6, is it 6 or maybe 8 victories to get the legendary from rank 1. If I could get to rank 15 and only have to get 3 victories in each of those ranks, that would be great. I guess if people really do lose interest in this game, eventually I'll be left with either the professionals and I won't even be able to get anywhere in ranked, or I'll be playing against random people and maybe it'll be easier to get up in the rank. I suppose if I was the last Hearthstone player ever, I'd be rank legendary 1. Theoretically, if I could play against anybody. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. Stay tuned if you're watching live. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.